Hey everybody, and welcome to Don't Copy That Floppy. I'm Lex.
I'm Dan.
We recorded, or we broadcast a little bit earlier. In case you were listening to the station earlier, that was a mistake.
It was very embarrassing. After some technical difficulties involving the exe file for our broadcasting program just disappearing from my computer, but leaving everything else intact.
Thanks, Windows 8.
It was probably Windows 8's fault. We're Don't Copy That Floppy, once again. We're a weekly video game news podcast. We broadcast from 7 to 8 p.m. as my phone is ringing. 7 to 8 p.m. every Friday on Chipbit Radio at chipbit.net. You can also find us on all them social medias like Facebook, Twitter. We're also on YouTube, iTunes, and Steam. Or Don't Copy That Floppy everywhere but Twitter, where we are at DCTF Podcast.
We have a ton of stuff to talk about this week, starting off on a super sad note about a death in the industry, but...
that I'm sure everyone's heard about by now.
Yeah.
But we're going to touch on it anyway.
Also, let's see, an interesting Kickstarter that's going on for
we
a
actually have
documentary.
a lot of stuff, aside from the sadder story, we have a lot of stuff about developers and current rumblings and shakings in the game studio world.
So some comments we didn't like from Randy Pitchford.
The ongoing odyssey of our hatred of Randy Pitchford.
Some business moves we didn't like from Konami. But also some business moves we did like from EA for one of the first. That's the first time I can say that.
Enough.
And a business move that may or may not pan out from Comcast.
Yes. We have a couple Kickstarter stories to talk about a little bit too. So. That's that.
So we should just jump right into it. We got so much stuff.
So the first big news of this week is that Nintendo's president, Satoru Iwata, passed away at the age of 55, which is very young. I actually thought he was a little bit older than that.
Which was on July 11th. Which was what?
This was like right after our last show, basically. We just missed this one. So this came suddenly.
It was extremely unexpected. We knew that last year...
He went through surgery.
Yeah, and he hadn't been able to do anything for E3, last year's E3. And
when he made his first appearance after that, you could tell he had been pretty ill.
Yeah, he looked rough.
He was really skinny and just pale.
But he recovered. He seemed to recover from that, and especially over the past 6 months, he's looked great, and he's done. He's been
doing a lot of videos and everything again. What he went through surgery for was a gallbladder cyst, or like a bile duct thing.
Yeah, and it was like cancerous.
Which ended up being, and that's what he ended up dying from as well, we found out. So, apparently something else happened with that. There were complications of some kind, probably. All we got the day of was Nintendo issuing a short statement just saying, Nintendo deeply regrets to announce that President Satoru Iwata has passed away on July 11th due to bile duct growth. That's all they gave us.
It was so weird that they were really specific about what killed him.
Yeah.
But didn't say anything else.
Yeah.
That was bizarre, but Japanese people, I guess.
I suppose.
What I'm going to chalk that up to.
Yeah.
Get
it to the point.
It was so sad.
Yep. So he's been with Nintendo since the 1980s. I worked on games like Balloon Fight and Earthbound. I actually didn't know he worked on Earthbound.
Yeah, that was really interesting to me to find out as well. So it was like in 1980 he started full-time at HAL Laboratories.
Yep.
And he continued to work on stuff like Earthbound. In 93? I think it was, 93, he became president of HAL Laboratories. So, like, he was the dude in charge of the first Super Smash. Like, that was, like, his thing.
With Masahiro Sakurai, directing it as well. So, but he was a big hand in all that. Then in 2000, he became director of the company, and in 2002, he was appointed as the fourth president.
And he was the first president to not be part of, like, the family that had run the company in the past.
The Yamauchi
really
family, yes.
And he oversaw some of the strongest, but also some of the weakest releases.
Oh, GameCube, no!
So, at first he started off overseeing the release of the GameCube, which mostly I'm not going to put on him because that was, like, right when he sort of took over. It was, or shortly after he took over was when that came out. But then the
Wii and DS.
Which were just really big deals.
They were beefcakes.
Obviously.
And then most recently, obviously, the Wii U, which, well, everybody knows that story.
Not as much of a success. But Then one of the last things he had announced, big business moves for Nintendo, was that they're going to be releasing iOS games, which was a really interesting move for him to make. Yep. Overall, I mean, we did stories on him in the past where he would be in like shareholder meetings, and he would shareholders would be like, "Why aren't you making more business moves that just make money?" And he would always argue with them to say, like, "Well, we should."
It's about video games.
It's about video games. It's about people having fun. Yeah.
And people, I know, after his death, a lot of people dug up some old footage of him at gaming events talking about just that.
The business card line, which was, what is it? On the business card it says, "I'm CEO. In my mind, I'm a game designer, but in my heart, I'm a gamer." Yep. I think that was the quote.
Something along those lines. Well, paraphrase it. But, so this guy, he was really into what he did.
And he was so good at it. He was
super charismatic.
Yeah, and he was one of the few CEOs that really did show that he cared about the game. He also first and foremost.
You could tell, obviously, English was his second language, but he put a ton of effort into learning English just so he could do English Nintendo Directs.
Totally, yeah.
For people, too. And that's just, like, some amazing dedication that he actually took the time. So, like, good on him for that. But, I mean, you can... There's stories about him all over the internet right now, tributes to him, chronologies of his career, and, like, the ups and downs. It's everywhere right now. There's also tons of fan art coming in that people have done as little tributes to.
Oh, yeah, man. Some of that is, like...
It's heartbreaking.
It is. It'll make you cry.
Oh, my God.
That fan art. It's... beautiful.
Yeah. So it's cool, because he was such a passionate member of the game development community. It's really cool to see all the fans come out and do all of this in light of his sudden passing. So, yeah, I mean, when I started seeing all the fan art come through, I couldn't believe it. Like, just the sheer amount of all of it.
Well, there's also a story from Kotaku from earlier today, the 17th.
Yes.
Talking about how thousands attended his 2-day funeral.
Right.
Which I assume most of those were just fans who showed up, but it was still...
I mean, I don't know how open of, like, a funeral it was. Like, but apparently if that many people were there, I don't think it was particularly private. It's very cool. We wanted to also talk about, in light of that...
The future of Nintendo.
I know one of the first things that came to my mind, after the initial surprise, obviously, when he passed away, was who's going to be in charge of Nintendo? Like, what is their contingency plan here? Shigeru Miyamoto passed through my mind, obviously, because he's such a big name there, but he's always been more of a creator, less the corporate side of stuff. And maybe that's by choice. That's just what he wants to do, and it's not that he's not capable of it. That would seem to probably be the case, as it seems like he and one Mr. Genyo Takeda have taken over Nintendo for now.
And we're getting this from an article from Polygon from the 14th of July.
Yes. And a lot of people, myself included, weren't really sure who Mr. Takeda was. Because I guess, I mean, I don't think we ever saw him in any Nintendo Directs or heard much of him developing games and stuff. I think he's been more on the business side of things lately. But he actually has quite a career himself. And that's what this Polygon article is kind of about, is who is this guy who's partnered up with Miyamoto now. He made an arcade game called Ever Race way back in the day.
All right.
Way back in the day,
of
which
course,
was
the legendary Ever Race.
Ever Race. I'm assuming Japan only arcade title.
Oh, that's a strange-looking cabinet.
It is a really weird-looking cabinet. It allowed 6 players to predict the outcome of horse races.
Oh.
And this was released when Miyamoto was actually still in school. And it was the first video game that Nintendo released. Because anyone who doesn't know, they started as a company that made Hanafuda cards and other kind of parlor games and things like that.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
So this was their first video game.
Oh my god, Japanese people age so well. Because you said it was when Miyamoto was still in school.
And like, this
guy looks younger than
like
Miyamoto.
Hideo Kojima, too.
Yeah.
Kojima, who we'll also be talking about in today's show. That dude looks great for a guy in his 50s. So, I mean, I think it's more of a curve where they look really good until like 70, and then they go at a right angle for the rest of their lives.
Once those wrinkles start, they hit them real hard.
They hit real hard. That's what it was like when I was over there. Everyone either looked good or just ancient.
Anyway,
so he worked on that. He also was assigned to a research and development team within Nintendo called R&D3, which is the team that made Punch-Out!, the arcade game that eventually became Mike Tyson's Punch-Out! On the NES. So that's a big, huge deal. And he is also one of the people who helped build the technology that made saving your game possible on old NES cartridges, like The Legend of Zelda, most notably, because that was a big deal when it first came out.
Well, thanks for that.
He also was one of the architects of the Wii, which, as we already talked about, was one of their most successful ventures, period.
Mm-hmm.
So his philosophy was the one of like the diminishing returns of graphical fidelity that made the Wii kind of an outlier because it didn't have the same graphics capabilities that other systems did. And he was kind of one of the ones who popularized that and said, like, no, we just need good games, we need revolutionary controls. And at least in the Wii's case, not so much in the Wii U's case, that paid off in a way.
Yeah,
because the system, not at first maybe, but once it started picking up steam and became this big thing for like families and everything, like it really didn't matter anymore that it was so much less powerful a system than the PS3 and the 360. So, good call on his part, I guess. And it's very in line with Nintendo's philosophy of like, the game is what's important. It's not how pretty it is, it's how well it plays and how it makes you feel and like things like that. So, as of the 13th, Takeda and Miyamoto stepped forward to kind of lead Nintendo through this time. And Takeda is also, as of this month, one of the most senior members of the entire company, being his 43rd year with Nintendo. So it seems like the right kind of guy to step in and be leading them at this point.
Certainly got the experience.
Definitely. Quite the career behind him. So it looks like a jolly guy, too. So, we'll see what happens with Nintendo from here. I'm really curious how this is going to affect them going forward. Because I know Iwata was one of the big proponents of them making iOS games now. So I'm assuming they're going to keep that project going.
Yeah, they're not usually... They don't like to backtrack.
No.
Like, especially... No. And the Wii U is a good example of that.
Exactly.
So, since the iOS thing has been announced and is, like, underway, I think they're probably not gonna...
Yeah, and we can still probably assume to hear about the NX early next year, based on what they said. So, yeah, that's all our Nintendo news. A sad time, but we'll make it through, just like Nintendo.
Yeah, I mean... You know,
if there's one thing Nintendo's good at, it's sticking it out.
That's true. Our thoughts are with them, you know?
Yeah.
Like, so, what do we got next? We got some Kickstarter stuff going on?
Why couldn't it have been Randy Pitchford?
Do you want to talk about Randy Pitchford now?
Let's move on to Randy Pitchford. That seems like his good enough segue.
Alright. So...
Hey, at least it would have been with no regrets. For Randy Pitchford. So we have a game. Lex found us a GameSpot article from today.
From July 17th,
titled "No Regrets" about Aliens Colonial Marines. CEO says.
And I saw that title and I'm like, oh my god, is this Randy Pitchford talking? I was really hoping for a second that it was Sega talking about it because I really didn't want it to be Randy Pitchford, but it was Randy Pitchford. So here's another byline quote. I wouldn't trade that experience for anything, says Randy Pitchford, who lost as much as $15 million on the game. So for those who don't know, quick recap, Colonial Marines, which came out in 2013, sucked. Really bad.
It was really bad. It was broken and unfinished and bad.
But even worse, they had advertised it as looking almost completely different than it did on release.
A very high quality demo level that they showed off at E3.
The people making it were, Sega was the parent company, the publisher, right?
Yep.
And the Sega went to Gearbox, the makers of Borderlands, run by Randy Pitchford, and said, hey, make this Aliens game. And they said, okay, cool. Then they proceeded to allegedly take a bunch of the money that they were supposed to use,
Borderlands 2.
siphon into Borderlands 2, and also hand that project off to a smaller company that they conscripted to do it because a lot of their programmers were just working on Borderlands 2.
Yes. So it seems kind of like a case of negligence. And allegedly embezzlement.
and there's a trial going on right now. We've reported on it a couple times, and it was about false advertising. About how the game had been advertised as looking a certain way and playing a certain way and having certain levels, and those were not in the finished product. Now, what the most recent news from that trial was that Gearbox was exempt from it. So said the judge. They said, well, since Sega's the parent company and they're ultimately responsible, going forward, they're the ones that are going to be dealt with and have to pay the settlement, and not Gearbox. And when that happened, I was like, oh my gosh, Randy Pitchford is going to get really emboldened by this, even though he totally doesn't deserve to.
Boy, howdy did he.
Oh, he did.
Oh,
you want to read some more of these lovely quotes?
Oh my goodness. So,
you don't know where to begin. People,
I don't know, they're all that bad. I'm going to start with this one. Some people invented this myth that if we tried, it would have been good. So we must not have tried. So there's this rumor that we embezzled money from aliens and spent it on Borderlands. Firstly, that's absurd. And secondly, the actual truth is the opposite, which is a lot more embarrassing. Now, I don't know what may or may not be true about that. But the fact of the matter is that he's saying that he's basically saying Aliens Colonial Marines was destined to be bad. Like, he's saying that it's a myth that if they had tried to make a good game, it would have worked. Are you serious?
Well, if you take his earlier quotes into account, that doesn't seem to be what he's saying, because he doesn't actually view it as a bad game. His whole no regrets
he says that some people just don't care for it.
Yeah, what did he describe it as, like a sandcastle? What was the thing?
Oh, that's later in the article, that he says that, it's human nature that when some people see a nice sandcastle, they want to destroy it. And then he says in quotes, that's their way of relating to that. It's typically a less sophisticated mind. There's a dark part of all of us that likes the idea of crushing a sandcastle, but most of us will respect it and let it be. So he's saying that everyone who doesn't like his game is just jealous of his success. And wants to crush his nice sandcastle.
And jealous of how great the game is.
Or something?
Which, if that logic was true, then whenever...
But the game is bad.
Yeah, no, it's bad. That's the whole point that he's missing. But no, like, if his logic here was true of the industry in general, then that would mean, like, whenever a really good game came out, everyone would just say it sucked and it wouldn't sell.
Yeah.
Which doesn't happen.
No. And also, I get what he's talking about this like it's something that's entirely subjective, too. Like, that a video game is something that a person can go into and entirely subjectively judge it. And I don't think that video games are like that.
Well, I think
elements of video games are subjective.
There's an argument for that, and I can see that for many games.
Yes.
But for Marines in particular, the lawsuit sort of exemplifies the idea that, no, this is not objective. It was false advertising. There's solid proof of that.
A game of this pedigree, like a game with this much behind it, can objectively you can objectively state that this game should have a few certain things, like working AI. It shouldn't be ridden with glitches. It should look good. Like, it should function. And these are basic things that this game doesn't do. And I think that when a game is actually broken, you can objectively say it's a bad game.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the point that he's not even mentioning here. He's just saying, like, oh, well, some people didn't like our broken game because some people just don't care for broken games that they paid $60 for.
You know what? We've done stories in the past on Peter Molyneux. And how, especially recently, when he has made these absurd claims, Molyneux has.
Yes. All the stuff with Goddess that we talked about. There's a new article up about that, actually. God, They're still not doing anything for that guy.
Jesus.
It's bad.
But no, when he's done that, at least in recent times.
Yes.
Reporters have actually called him out on it and grilled him on it.
Yeah.
Which he totally deserves. I really wish someone would grill Randy Pitchford.
Right?
It seems like it took Molyneux 10 years of doing this stuff for someone to finally grill him on it.
Yeah.
So this is just not something that happens with game industry.
Pitchford needs to
interviews.
bungle another game.
And then it'll start happening.
Yeah. And I don't know if that will happen, though. Because the thing is, it could be that Aliens Colonial Marines was just this mess up. And maybe nothing bad like that will happen again from them. But even so, that doesn't stop Colonial Marines from being a huge screw-up.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop it being super obnoxious of Randy Pitchford to just brush all this off like that. It's not cool, man. But it's really not cool. And to call people... He said that everybody who is angry about this has a less sophisticated mind. If you don't like Aliens Colonial Marines and are mad at him because of his role in it, he's saying you're dumb.
Pretty much. Your opinion isn't valid because you're dumb.
It just means you're not as smart as Randy Pitchford, which maybe we're not, because apparently he got away with embezzling $60 million of Sega's money. Allegedly. I will say that, that wasn't proven, so I should probably stop saying it, because I don't want people to think that,
I feel like as long as we precurse it with allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah.
But just the whole cornerstone of this article, which is him saying, I got no regrets, is just so galling.
It's bad. And, you sent me this article, and I opened it up before you got here to record, and I got mad. I saw it and immediately just was upset.
This Hulk smash.
This is the worst.
But let's move on from that, because I don't even want to do that.
Let's talk about Kickstarter news.
Okay, sure.
So, you wanted to talk about Shenmue.
A little bit, because that made me a little annoyed.
There's an article from today on Polygon about Shenmue 3, which it's done fundraising, and it reached $5.6 million, and just ever so slightly edged out Bloodstained Ritual of the Night as the most funded video game in Kickstarter history.
So,
why don't you tear into this, Lex?
You
got some strong feelings.
We did a whole story about this
yes.
During our E3 coverage.
Yeah. And you were really mad about it.
And I was really mad about it.
I was a little more forgiving, but I saw where you were coming from.
I'm not going to go over all of it, but what my argument boiled down to was because Sony announced this Kickstarter at their press conference, they immediately... They guaranteed that it would immediately be funded, pretty much.
Yes.
But it also meant that since they were doing that, they were obviously putting money up for the game.
Right.
And typically the idea behind Kickstarters is you don't have a big studio doing that, so that's why you need Kickstarter. So it felt disingenuous in that way, but then there's the whole idea that after this had already met its goal, there was no reason to keep donating to it, because obviously Sony's going to make it, obviously they have a bunch of money to make it,
yep.
And every time you donate, you're essentially paying them to watch their advertising for this game, which is not cool. Now, there were unlocks for this, of course.
Yeah, they had a lot of stretch goals.
But I feel like if fans had just started a petition, like a non-donating petition, saying, Sony, you're going to make this game, you should put up the money to make it a full game, because obviously fans want that.
Right.
I think that would have been more... I would have liked that better.
Do you think that Sony wanted to jump on this before something like that happened?
Maybe.
So they could get it done this way?
I think that primarily they were doing this just because they saw Yooka-Laylee and they saw Bloodstained. And and they've seen all these other Kickstarters and the Mighty Number 9.
And they had Mr. Suzuki there.
Yeah.
The creator of the series.
Yeah.
They had him.
Yeah.
They
had him in a closet. They
had him just in storage. Like, hey, Mr. Suzuki, do you finally want to make Shenmue 3? And he was like, boy, do I. It's pretty cold in here. Have you seen any sailors?
So this, no one listened to me when I talked about this before, because people kept donating to this, and oh my god, did they donate a lot of money.
Yeah.
As we were talking about, it beat out Bloodstained and
Torment Tides of Numenera, which is the sequel to Torment Planescape.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
I believe so. What? Yeah, it's pretty good news. Planescape Torment's super good game.
I didn't even know that Kickstarter existed. I'm so excited now.
It's the only RPG game that you can beat without fighting anybody. You beat that game just by talking to him.
That's true. But no, if you look at a lot of these Kickstarters, we have a list of in this article, they listed the top, 10 of them?
Yes.
So Shenmue 3 coming in at number 1 with 5 million, 5.6.
Yeah, close to 5.7.
Bloodstained in second with 5.5.
Yeah.
The Torment sequel, 4.1, 4.2.
I'm pretty sure that's what that is, at least.
Then we have Pillars of Eternity.
Just shy of 4 million.
Mm-hmm. Mighty Number 9, Broken Age, Yooka-Laylee, Wasteland 2, I don't remember that.
I don't remember it either.
Elite Dangerous, I don't know what that is either. And Homestuck, I know what Homestuck is. Homestuck Adventure Game.
But wait, Homestuck made more money than this, but it's last. They messed up the order.
Okay. But one of the things that a lot of these games have in common, they're all very recent.
Yes.
These are not old Kickstarters.
No.
So that means that that is a really good reason for why Sony did this, because the Kickstarter funding trend is just continuing to go up. I don't know if this will be the peak. I feel like it probably will, especially if we get Shenmue 3 and people that actually like it. But I think or like Mighty Number 9 is going to be one of the big deciders for a lot of people, I think.
For me, it's... I'm really wondering if Mighty Number 9 is actually going to be any good.
Yeah. So,
I'm super curious about that game.
Broken Age was kind of mixed, right?
Yeah. And a lot of... I haven't played Broken Age. What I've heard about it, and specifically heard of like what the problems people have with it are, I don't like the sound of it.
And Pillars of Eternity was very, very glitchy and broken.
Although, has it been fixed?
I think it has been.
I'm pretty sure they patched it fairly quickly.
Yeah, so they had a really rocky launch, but from what I've heard, the gameplay itself, when it works, is very satisfying.
And we've had other stuff that maybe didn't make as much money as this, but has come out and has been really well done. Like Shovel Knight. Was 2 thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
And that still has more content on the way as well. It's due out soon.
I'm waiting to see when this when this Kickstarter bubble bursts, because it's gotta happen
at some point.
Especially now that we're hitting like the $5 to $6 million mark.
That's a lot of money for like a fundraiser campaign.
It's gotta be soon. Like,
yeah,
I don't see it keeping up this kind of momentum for that much longer.
We'll see.
But what else
we have this other Kickstarter.
Oh yeah,
for a documentary on developer Midway. And if for some reason you don't know who Midway is, they are the people who developed Mortal Kombat, NBA Jam. So good. You're on fire. And the Terminator 2 arcade game.
Which was radical.
Which was super radical.
Was a really great arcade game.
So this documentary is a big old thing being done by a man named Josh Tsui, who worked at Midway back in the 90s.
During the height of their
craziness and all their Midwayness. And he described it as the Wild West and like Lord of the Flies, noting that there was very little management supervision and a willingness to experiment with different types of games. The campaign pitch on Kickstarter says the documentary will focus on stories behind many of these games and the studio culture in general, and projects that never shipped.
Oh.
I think this sounds really cool.
Yeah, this does sound like a
because Midway's they're an old hand at this stuff at this point. I mean, no, they don't exist anymore. It's all the guys are now at like NetherRealm Studios, still working on Mortal Kombat. But they put out a lot of games in that era.
They really did, like
including some really important stuff.
And even on like the N64, they were still going strong.
Oh yeah,
as I recall.
With real gems like Mortal Kombat 4.
The first 3D, that was a good transition to 3D. I thought it was for the time.
For the time, yeah.
For the time, it was a pretty good.
It wasn't a very good game though.
Looking back, no.
At the time, it was kind of impressive though. You're right.
Also, because a lot of fighting games, especially at the time, were struggling with that transition to 3D.
Yeah.
And I think that Midway handled it a lot better than a lot of other companies. Van Damme, they're talking about Jean-Claude Van Damme. Oh, they're going to make a game with him?
Yep.
Oh, Universal Soldier game.
The Universal Soldier game. It shows them little anime gifs of, like, mocap stunts and everything.
Great.
And everybody getting hurt. It looks like a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yay.
Big fat guy.
So, this looks great. What is it up to right now? Or what does it need total?
This is at $7,400 out of $75,000.
Now, it is a day in. So
it's only one day.
Just started. So, 10% after one day.
That's not bad.
It's not bad.
Oh, look at Sonya Blade. Never before seen footage.
N64 era Sonya Blade.
Oh, it's so good. No, you see that texture? That's a PS1 game. That's some mucky PS1 textures if I ever seen them. So I can't see any stretch goals on this. But for a documentary film, I don't really know what they'd be necessarily.
We'll make it longer.
Backer rewards are like digital downloads, Blu-ray editions with bonus footage.
Oh my gosh, the pledge $50 or more is On Fire. That's the title for the backer reward. And On Fire, there's another $50 one, which is On Fire International Edition.
International Edition. Then you got Icon shout out, top of the food chain. You get to, oh my goodness, for the 5,000 or more, there's still 2 left. You get to be in the documentary talking about your memories of playing 90s Midway games.
That's pretty sweet.
That's actually that's way cooler than like dinner with the creators or something like you usually see. That's really neat. So, I think that this is a cool documentary. We talked about another documentary, video game related, recently on Kickstarter, which was about the Pokemon tournament scene.
That didn't work so well.
It did not get funded. I thought that seemed kind of cool. This seems way cooler.
Yeah, I really hope this gets funded.
Me too. I just want to watch this.
Totally.
I really want to watch this. So, we'll cross our fingers on that, and if you're a big fan of Midway, check it out. It's gonna be... Oh, look at Narc. Say no to drugs.
Say no to drugs. By shooting everyone.
Shooting everybody. It doesn't matter if they're doing drugs. They're about to.
They deserve to die.
They need to die. It's thought crime.
Alright, so if you just tuned in the last couple minutes, you are listening to Don't Copy That Floppy, a video game news podcast broadcasting live on www.chipbit.net, Fridays, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time? That was 30 minutes ago.
We're doing a station ID at the halfway mark.
Oh my god! Wait.
We've really been neglecting our soundboard this episode.
I remembered we had it about 5 minutes ago.
Well, also just because this episode started with very sad news, and I didn't want to
We're not going to bust out an air horn when we're talking about Satoru Iwata.
That's bad taste, even for us.
Really bad taste.
But now I think we're free in the second half to do as much of that as possible.
Okay, good.
So yeah, we are on all sorts of social media. You can check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Steam, and iTunes. On iTunes and also the chipit.net site, we have show archives, so you can go listen to past episodes.
Yeah, we've been going for over a year now.
Yeah. Good for us. But definitely like us on the social media. Interact with us there. We'll talk back to you.
Yeah, we're lonely. We need someone to talk to.
Yeah.
Pizza time!
So, in more industry news,
Konami done drop the spaghetti again.
They're dropping so much spaghetti
every 5 minutes.
Yeah, they can't stop. They can't stop. They just got a big bucket full. Hideo Kojima and Konami had a big falling out recently.
We reported on it.
You reported on it
on other new spaces.
It's a big deal. It involved Silent Hills being canceled and a bunch of other stuff.
But one of the things they said to us repeatedly was that Kojima will be staying on until the end of Metal Gear Solid 5.
Which ships in less than 2 months. So that game very well is probably done.
Oh, yeah.
At this point, and getting I would assume that MGS5 has gone gold at this point and is being printed.
Yeah.
And getting ready for distribution. So that's probably true. What there is more to talk about here is Konami removed Kojima's name from a bunch of stuff on their website when all this hubbub initially happened. Naturally, there was a backlash about that, because people really like Hideo Kojima, and also that's just messed up to do. And they put his name back on pretty much everything.
Yep.
But now, box art has been released. Updated box art has been released for Metal Gear Solid 5, showing that they have removed Hideo Kojima's name from the cover.
Again.
The original cover has the title of the game, and right above it, a Hideo Kojima game, which I believe most of the other Metal Gear games have as well. Where they say, by Hideo Kojima, somewhere on them. But they just removed it and bumped the image up a little bit to fill in the empty space. And it seems like they were just hoping no one would notice. But there's been a big outcry against this now, because I've seen people are starting up petitions to send to Konami to say, we're not going to buy this game if you remove Kojima's name from it. It's getting to that point.
Because the last time they removed his name from stuff, the internet flipped out.
So why would they do it again?
It doesn't make any sense. They're just creating bad PR for themselves.
And you said right before our show tonight, you said you didn't understand who's doing their PR. Who is doing this?
They're idiots, whoever they are.
Yeah.
Whoever their PR team needs to be fired. Because doing this mistake twice in a row is going to cost your company so much fucking money.
Oh my god. The thing is, if they leave his name off it, I'm even considering not buying this game right away. I love this series to death. But for them to just spit in Kojima's face like that is not okay.
And they already knew it wasn't okay because of how we reacted the last time they did it.
Yeah. We talked about it a little before the show. What did Kojima do?
Our running theory is that he slept with the wife of whoever the president of the company is.
Because what other reasonable explanation is there, right? For this animosity they're showing him? What did Kojima do?
And the silly thing is, like you said, the ship's in less than 2 months.
Yes.
All they need
This is coming out September 1st.
Yeah, all they need to do was keep his name on it, his name, around for 2 months.
And they make all the money.
And they couldn't even do that.
Yeah. I mean, fair point. This game's going to sell well regardless.
And the pre-orders have already happened,
yeah.
So there's all that.
Yeah. But we have such a bad taste in my mouth. I don't like it.
Not quite as bad as the Randy Pitchford story, but pretty bad.
It's pretty bad. Because it's just showing this incredible disrespect for a guy who's such a major part of your company.
Yeah, has done so much for your company.
Yeah.
Even if you don't want to think about it as...
He is one of the people who made Konami.
Yeah, so even if you don't want to think about it of what he means to the industry and the fans...
Which is huge in and of itself.
But even putting that all aside, he's made you so much money.
That series is a big seller.
Now, I know that I had read
Plus you include Metal Gear Rising and all the spin-offs and everything.
Yeah.
It's incredible how much money he's made for them.
I had read an article about how, what was it? Four.
Yes.
Made it made money under projections.
Right.
So it's every...
4 was what they put a lot of money into it. So it was a very big deal, and they assumed it would sell a ton because it's the final chapter.
Mm-hmm. But then it wasn't.
Yeah.
Either of those things. It didn't sell tons of copies, and it wasn't the final chapter.
Final chapter for Solid Snake.
Well, that's true. His mustache.
Yeah.
But but if you look at the earlier games, man, they made a lot of money, and just it's very short-sighted on the company's part and really dumb.
Yeah. I am not happy about it.
Nope, I don't think anybody is happy about it.
The game looks terrific, at the very least. They also removed the Kojima Productions logo off the cover.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And Akio Otsuka, who's the Japanese voice actor for Solid Snake, and Big Boss, in this case, confirmed that Kojima Productions is shutting down. Or it has shut down. It is no longer a thing. Which is sad. But
that was we knew that day was coming.
Yeah, but it's official. Kojima says that he is still committed to the game's release up until it's released. I feel like he's probably sworn to not really say anything one way or another about what's going on.
Oh yeah, I assume he's under contract, not
but
stuff.
I would like at the very least for something from him saying you guys just buy the game anyway. It's not a big deal. It would make me feel better. about buying the game if his name wasn't on it.
A sneaking suspicion that in 5 years there will be some sort of documentary or news piece
about what happened.
Yeah.
It needs time to blow over, though. Not be so fresh.
Mm-hmm.
I am looking forward to what Kojima does from here on out, though. He's a really great game creator.
Yeah, like we've talked about in past episodes, our hope is that he will start his own studio.
I'm sure he will. Because if Koji Pro shut down, that's a ton of other employees who I'm sure would be willing to stay working for him. I think they'll open a new studio under another name.
And then he'll...
Kojima Productions, too.
And then he'll make a bunch of games where he doesn't have to answer to Konami about stuff and have more creative freedom.
He's gonna make some stuff. He has 100% creative freedom.
Then his only limit will be his budget, Kickstarter time.
I know, MGS5 is being... is on thin ice, in Australia, I believe, already.
Oh, geez, Australia?
Well,
again.
It's because the game has a lot of, like, pretty hot-button stuff.
Yeah, no,
that
it's very violent.
Yeah. It's really violent. It's got a lot of torture scenes in it, which you can tell from the trailers, but apparently, like, in the game, yes, there are actually quite a few torture scenes that are pretty graphic. And there's a fair amount of violence against kids. Too, because there's lots of stuff about like child soldiers and things like that, and obviously it's not portrayed in a positive way, but it's in there. It's bad news. So I guess Australia is considering whether or not they are going to classify it or not. It's interesting. It's not often that a game pushes the envelope like that, and pushes the envelope and not in a way like Hatred tried to push the envelope. Pushes the envelope while still making a tasteful story. That just happens to have some pretty heavy issues embedded in it. So, it would be cool to see. So,
speaking of studio stuff, what I'd like to talk about next is Miss Raymond.
Okay, sure.
If
I have a little story I want to talk about after that.
Okay.
But, let's get right into this.
So, we had some really interesting and positive news on July 13th.
Yep.
From EA.
Of all people.
Of all people. I wasn't expecting it.
They picked up Jade Raymond.
Who used to work for Ubisoft.
Yes.
And what did she work on?
Assassin's Creed.
Yeah, that was it.
Was her big thing.
Yeah.
That was
1 and 2, right?
Yep, 1 and 2.
Specifically.
Yes. I believe she stepped away from the project after that to work on other stuff, but she was a big pusher behind those games.
I mean, especially if she was like the lead on 2, the height of Assassin's Creed's awesomeness.
Yeah,
I feel.
Anyway. I would agree with you actually. Well, and just the sheer step up from the first game that it was.
Yeah,
that was a game where really clearly the people working on it took into account every single criticism people had of Assassin's Creed 1 and actually addressed it. Mm-hmm. That game fixed like literally every problem I had with the first one.
So Electronic Arts has tapped her to start a new studio in Montreal, Canada.
Yes.
And it's going to be called Motive Studios.
Yep.
And it will be... What is it? It will be... The first thing she'll be doing is working on the new Star Wars game that...
With Amy Hennig from Uncharted.
Yeah.
The lady who left Uncharted that we talked about last time. Was that last week or the week before?
It was recently.
It was very recently. Former Uncharted director and writer Amy Hennig is making a new Star Wars title at EA, and now Jade Raymond's helping her. That could be a good game.
Yeah,
that could be a real good game.
The only things that I find really funny about these quotes is that in this article, they talk about how...
Oh, and that game's being developed by Visceral Games, the Dead Space studio. Too.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Motive wants to develop incredible action experiences and incubate entirely new IPs. So, obviously, when you want to incubate entirely new IPs, your first project will be a Star Wars game.
Yeah. Hey, man, you gotta start somewhere.
But no, I mean, that's... If after the Star Wars game, she starts working on new IPs with that studio...
She worked on Watch Dogs, too. I didn't realize that.
Oh, no.
Uh-oh. We're watching you, Jade.
But no, I'm super excited about this to see what they come up with.
Yeah,
and,
she's a cool person. I've seen interviews with her and stuff actually around Assassin's Creed, and stuff. She's very cool. She knows what she's talking about and has worked on a lot of good games. So I think we'll see some really good stuff. And I mean, Amy Hennig worked on the Uncharted games as well.
Yeah.
So
also, good. Just the fact that they're working together on the Star Wars game means, as we said, not only is it probably going to be awesome, but assuming that it is awesome and it sells super well, that means EA is going to be like, oh, your Motive Studios, you just proved to us can make a top-selling game. Here, have all the money.
Yeah.
So,
and then we'll get a few really good games until EA starts making them pump out one a year.
Yeah. Yep.
But we can be sure of a couple really great games to come out of there before that happens.
So it's only going to get better before it gets worse.
Yep. So that's very cool. A little news piece I found that I thought was interesting is the director of Metal Gear Rising, Mr. Kenji Saito of Platinum Games, my favorite studio.
Oh, nice.
We learned at E3. We didn't talk about this game from E3, actually. Somehow I totally missed this. This Transformers game called Transformers Devastation. Have you seen this at all?
No, I don't remember.
Oh my god, I need to show you this after the podcast.
Okay.
This is a Transformers action game that has, like, the best 1980s cel-shading art style, and it's just this crazy over-the-top Platinum game style.
So it's 1980s Transformers. It's not Michael Bay Transformers.
Oh yeah, this is like old-school cartoon Transformers. Leonard Nimoy Transformers. Peter Cullen Transformers.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he's still in the new movies too.
Okay, yeah.
It's an action game being made by Platinum. It's Transformers. That means that I want it. So that sounds all really good. And he's working on that after working on Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. And Saito says that if he has any say in the matter, he would want his next title to be Platinum's first foray into games based on anime series. And the two anime that he mentioned, a fan asked him if he wanted to make something based on Gatchaman or Tatsunoko's Karas OVA, which are both, like, cool things. But he replied, I want to make Kill La Kill or Berserk.
Get that soundboard up here.
Oh yeah. I'm going to do two. One for each of those.
Because those are awesome.
Those would be great, and Platinum could nail them.
Yeah.
They could nail both of those.
Talk about the best properties for the best studios.
Yeah.
Right? Like, perfect combination.
If, like, Platinum was made to make a Kill La Kill video game. For anybody who knows Kill La Kill, I would challenge you to not see how that would be perfect. And Berserk, an interesting thing to bring up, but also, you're looking for a big, over-the-top action thing. It would be much darker than what Platinum usually puts out. Mm-hmm. It would kind of have to be, but It would be cool to see them go into that territory, I think. And just seeing a Berserk game that's better than the ones that have come out would be cool, because the few existing Berserk games are very nasty looking and clunky and just not great. One was on the Dreamcast. That's all I need to say.
Oh no.
So whether this will amount to anything real is anyone's guess. It says in this article. This is an article from Polygon on the 14th. But it's worth noting that Hideki Kamiya of Platinum's well-documented wish for the studio to develop a Star Fox game has apparently come true. So at this point, anything seems possible. Because I forgot, actually, until looking at this, Platinum Games was helping to develop Star Fox Zero.
Yeah, I totally
alongside
remember that.
Nintendo. And I'm
sure that was in the Nintendo Direct.
It was.
I just didn't remember it.
I completely missed it. So, with Platinum getting their hands in so many projects right now, it actually doesn't seem that far-fetched. Mm-hmm. Because they've really shopped themselves around and been picked up by a lot of people. And they're working on Nier now as well. They're doing the Nier sequel now, too. So they're really everywhere now. Which is good, because they're a great studio.
This is interesting.
Yes.
Article from
Superdata.
Well, Superdata is technically the company that did this research. It was they didn't report on it. There were other places that reported on it, but from July 16th.
Yes.
And it is about, and Superdata research released a bunch of data about digital games market stuff for June.
Right.
And one of the things they found is that Fallout Shelter, the free iOS game that was released at E3, during E3 this year. Yeah. That was sort of like a fun little free tie-in to promote Fallout 4.
It's making tons of money.
Tons of money. Oh my god. What was the amount? It was like... Oh my god, I can't find the exact number.
Digital PC sales. Yeah, where's the actual exact
5.1 million in its first 2 weeks.
$5.1 million.
Yeah, that's the other thing to note. This has been out 2 weeks, and it's a free game.
Yep.
So all of that money people are spending are on the little in-game purchases. That, if I have played the game a little bit, I haven't played it too much, but from what I've seen, you totally, there aren't paywalls in this game. You can totally, you don't have to put any money into it. You can play the whole game and get the whole experience.
Right.
You just can kind of get fun extra things for money.
Yep.
So all these people are like, yeah, here, take this money. Man, Bethesda, this was a brilliant move on your part. You just made so much money off of this app.
I can't wait to play it on my Pip-Boy.
You'll be able to if you pre-order it.
Plug.
Don't pre-order games. It's a bad idea. So, what were some of the other ones that they listed on here? Top 10 digital console titles, top 10 digital console titles in Germany and the UK.
A lot of it is what you'd expect. Looking at it, like Grand Theft Auto and things like that.
Call of Duty.
Bloodborne was on there somewhere in one of them.
That was probably... Was it just America? That was in the UK.
It was in the UK, that's interesting.
The UK love Bloodborne. Good for them.
Good for them. Another story we got about EA. A partnership they are doing with Comcast.
Oh, I'm so wary of this.
Also from July 14th. This particular article from Polygon, you can find it a bunch of places, though. They announced a partnership in the form of Xfinity Games, powered by EA.
Okay, so we all know that the idea of streaming games is something that has been...
it's being pushed real hard
real hard. I think that eventually it will really take off. I think the technology's not quite there yet, which is the reason why it hasn't yet. But just the idea of being able to play a game and not have a machine that needs to have crazy specs is very appealing.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are trying to capitalize on this, get in early, and now apparently Comcast is one of them. And if I didn't hate Comcast so much, I might be excited for this.
What are you talking about? Their internet works all the time.
It works all the time, and their customer service is excellent.
It's great.
So this goes into beta. Went to beta, I think, a couple of days ago, right after this article was released.
Yep.
So if you want to check it out, you might be able to.
It launches with 23 games.
Now, they're all EA games, but they're not EA's big games. They're like random EA games that are pretty good, but not AAA titles.
Real Racing 2.
World of Goo is on here, as mentioned.
Monopoly.
Plants vs. Zombies.
Hegel Knight.
One of the things I noticed about these is since they're not AAA games, they're all games, except for maybe NBA Jam and FIFA.
Word Womp Underground.
A lot of them are games that are not graphically intensive. Yeah. So...
They're arcadey.
Yeah, and they're things that can be played on iOS. So if your concern about streaming games is, can we get that nice frame rate that we get if you're having a game run natively, with the games list they're giving us now, we're not going to find that out. So we really need to see a little more from that to prove that technology works.
Yes, indeed we do.
But what else I feel like there was something else I wanted to talk about with this story. You can use your smartphone and tablet
as
controllers.
That's good.
It's a good idea, I think. I don't know how well it works in practice.
So many people have smartphones and tablets anyway already. So
so you don't need to buy controllers, and that saves people money, which I'm all for. The only thing is trying to use a touchscreen as a controller is very difficult for me, at least.
Saying specifically, I'm just reading the article. excuse me, that this service is not for console games.
Oh. I had missed that because I'm a fool.
Mr. Strafford, who is working on this, says, we're taking EA's brands and making games and experiences specifically for this new audience that we think can reach a partnership with Comcast on the X1. So no console games. They're aiming at a different demographic with this.
But will there be PC games?
That's a good question. I don't know.
What about games that are on both PC and console? Can I play Batman Arkham Knight on this?
Of course you can.
Well, not the PC version.
Your TV will burn out, but you can do it.
Oh, I was reading a thing today about how the PC version is still not fixed. Also, the only news they have on it is that it's not going to probably be fixed until September.
Woof.
Man. Yep, that sums it up.
Good job. So with that, let's get into what's coming out video game release-wise in the next week or so. What do we got?
We've got one of the best games ever coming out for PS4 and PS Vita. I think you know what game I'm talking about.
Hato Full Boyfriend?
Yes.
So excited!
If you already
date
own
those
it,
pigeons.
But you don't own it on PS4 yet, you should just buy it for PS4.
Buy every version, why not? You can date pigeons no matter where you are.
Also, Game of Thrones, Telltale Game of Thrones, Episode 5, coming out Windows, Mac, PS3, PS4.
And we'll note that there's still one more episode after this one.
Oh, yes?
Breaking the mold of their 5-episode games. Game of Thrones has a 6th. A Nest of Vipers. Journey is coming out on PS4. Okay. The PS3 exclusive little adventure experience game, which is really fun. You can get One-Chanbara Z2 Chaos.
Oh, well, of course.
The third or fourth or something game in the famed One-Chanbara Bikini Samurai Squad franchise.
I forgot it was Bikini Samurai Squad.
How could you forget?
How could I?
How could you? So that'll be great. You got Tembo the Badass Elephant.
Well, yeah, who doesn't love Tembo the Badass Elephant?
Everybody loves Tembo the Badass Elephant. Way of the Samurai 4 on PC. Great. And, is this the one that came out back in 2011? This is the one that came out back in 2011. Why is this just now getting a PC port?
Because nobody cares.
Nobody should care. The game's not even good.
And the stuff after that is what we're going to talk about next week, I guess.
Yeah.
So
not a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean,
right
it's
now.
still
we're in
the
our
middle
dead
of summer.
zone.
Yeah. But,
Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh yeah, I was reading an article about that. It's the 1-year anniversary of the first game is when the fourth game is
Guy's putting out those games fast.
He knows what he's doing.
Although if you watch the game, the gameplay, you can see how he can make them so quickly.
No.
They're not really that intense, development-wise.
He's like the Ramones of game designers.
Hey, it's just like them.
Got those 3 chords. Just keep combining them over and over again.
3 chords made of robot foxes.
Oh, it's terrible. There's going to be a movie.
Okay. Oh my god, why?
No, that actually sounds like a good idea to me.
I mean, I guess. I don't know. I feel like you completely missed something with this whole Five Nights at Freddy's thing.
I thought it was fun to watch Let's Plays of it, but I don't see...
I don't get, there's all this lore.
Yeah, that's weird.
And I don't get why people are so into it. How much lore can it have? It's an angry bear robot at a pizza restaurant.
How much lore could it have?
How much lore could it possibly have?
It's just scary Chuck E. Cheese. That's all it is.
That's literally all it is. You open up the big book of Five Nights at Freddy's lore, and all it says is, it's just scary Chuck E. Cheese. I feel like I'm taking crazy pills.
Five Nights at Freddy's, it's so hard.
Five Nights at Freddy's 1, 2, 3, it's the same thing! Why can't you people see
4
this?
is going to be different, though. It's going to take place in your house.
What?
And you're wandering around with a flashlight.
Why is Freddy in your house?
They followed you home.
What?
From work.
He's going to eat your face like pizza?
Exactly.
With that, We have been Don't Copy That Floppy.
You can, we are an online video game news podcast. We broadcast live on Fridays from 7 to 8 on www.chipit.net. You can find us on the fist of social media, which includes...
I'll never get used to that term.
You came up with it.
I know.
Which includes Twitter, Facebook, Steam, iTunes, and YouTube.
Yes.
Check us out on all those places on iTunes and on the Chip It website. We have show archives, so
yes, we do.
Check out past episodes. We'd appreciate it. Interact with us on social media. We'd also appreciate that.
Please notice us, Senpai.
Please.
And until next week, don't copy that floppy. I got you with one more.